Many English learners have the same experience. They can understand English when they listen. They can read English texts. They even know many words. But when it is time to speak, their mind becomes empty. Words disappear. The mouth feels slow. The sentence breaks in the middle. This problem is very common, and it does not mean you are bad at English. Speaking feels hard because the brain is under pressure. When you speak, your brain tries to do many things at the same time. It tries to remember words. It checks grammar. It worries about mistakes. It thinks about how you sound. This overload makes speaking feel heavy and unnatural. The brain is not designed to work this way. In real life, language is not created by thinking first. It is created by use. Native speakers do not build sentences in their head. They react. Their brain has already trained patterns. The words come automatically because the brain has heard them many times before. Fluency is not intelligence. Fluency is familiarity. Many learners believe that speaking problems come from weak vocabulary or grammar. This belief creates frustration. They study more rules. They memorize more words. But speaking does not improve. This happens because speaking is not a knowledge problem. It is a brain training problem. Your brain learns language in the same way it learns habits. It learns through repetition, exposure, and emotional safety. When the brain feels safe, it releases language more easily. When it feels judged or rushed, it shuts down. That is why you speak better alone than in front of people. The language did not disappear. The pressure increased. Fear plays a silent role in speaking. Fear of mistakes, fear of sounding stupid, fear of being slow. This fear trains the brain to stay quiet. Over time, silence becomes the habit. The brain learns that speaking equals stress. Once this association is created, fluency becomes difficult even when you know what to say. Another reason speaking feels hard is translation. Many learners translate from their first language into English. Translation takes time. While you translate, the conversation moves on. This delay creates panic. Panic blocks memory. Then the brain freezes. The problem is not speed, the problem is process. Natural speaking does not use translation. It uses direct meaning. The brain connects situations to English sounds, not to native language words. This connection only forms through listening. A lot of listening. Listening without pressure. Listening without analysis. This is why podcasts are powerful. Podcasts train the brain quietly. They allow the brain to absorb rhythm, tone, and sentence flow. When you listen daily, your brain starts predicting English. It recognizes patterns. Slowly, these patterns become available for speaking. Speaking feels hard when listening is weak. Many learners speak more than they listen. This creates imbalance. The brain cannot produce what it has not absorbed. Imagine trying to play music without hearing it first. Language works the same way. Another hidden issue is perfection. Many learners wait to speak perfectly. They wait for the right word, the right tense, the right structure. While waiting, the moment passes. Native speakers do not wait. They adjust while speaking. Fluency is flexible. Perfection is rigid. When you remove the need to be perfect, speaking becomes lighter. The brain relaxes. Words come faster. Mistakes become part of movement, not a stop sign. Fluency grows through motion, not control. Speaking also feels hard because learners practice speaking in artificial ways, reading aloud, answering exam questions. These activities train accuracy, not flow. Natural speaking is emotional and contextual. It happens around ideas, not exercises. The brain needs meaning to speak. When you speak about real thoughts, fluency improves. When you repeat useful sentences, confidence grows. When you hear natural conversations, your brain learns timing. Many learners ask how long it takes to speak fluently. This question comes from impatience. Fluency is not a finish line. It is a process. The brain changes slowly, but it changes permanently when trained correctly. Daily exposure matters more than long study sessions. 10 minutes of listening every day is stronger than 2 hours once a week. The brain prefers consistency. It builds pathways through repetition, not intensity. Speaking becomes easier when English stops feeling like a subject and starts feeling like a tool. Tools are used, not tested. When you listen to English as a voice, not as a lesson, the brain relaxes. Relaxation allows learning. Your brain is not broken, it is untrained. And training does not require force. It requires direction. Listening, repetition, and low pressure create natural speech. Over time, the voice becomes familiar. The mind stops translating. The mouth moves with less effort. Fluency grows quietly. One day you notice that sentences come faster. Another day, you speak without planning. These moments are signs of brain adaptation. They cannot be rushed, but they can be supported. Speaking feels hard today because your brain is still learning safety. When the brain feels safe, language flows. This safety comes from daily listening, simple speaking, and patience with yourself. Fluency is not something you unlock. It is something you allow. The human brain does not learn language in the way many people think. It does not learn by memorizing rules first. It does not become fluent by passing tests. The brain learns language through experience. It learns by hearing patterns again and again until those patterns feel normal. This is how speaking becomes natural. When you were a child, no one explained grammar to you. No one corrected every sentence. You listened, you watched, you repeated sounds. Slowly, your brain built connections between situations and words. Speaking came later. This order matters. Listening first, speaking later. Fluency grows in this direction. Many English learners reverse this order. They try to speak before the brain is ready. They push output without enough input. This creates tension. The brain feels unsafe. When the brain feels unsafe, it slows down language. It protects itself by staying quiet. The brain prefers familiarity. When it hears the same type of sentences many times, it relaxes. Relaxation is the key to natural speech. A relaxed brain does not search for rules, it reacts. Reaction is faster than thinking. This speed is what we call fluency. Language lives in patterns, not in single words. Native speakers do not choose words one by one. They use chunks, small groups of words that appear together. These chunks are stored through listening. When you listen to podcasts, your brain collects these chunks quietly. This is why grammar study alone does not create fluency. Grammar explains language, but it does not train the brain to use it. The brain needs repetition in context. It needs to hear how words move together in real speech. Over time, the brain stops analyzing and starts recognizing. Another important part of brain learning is emotion. The brain remembers better when emotion is low and calm. Stress blocks memory, pressure blocks speech. That is why learning with podcasts is effective. There is no pressure to respond. No one is watching. The brain stays open. The brain also learns through rhythm. Every language has its own rhythm and timing. English rhythm is different from many other languages. If your brain does not feel this rhythm, speaking feels unnatural. Podcasts train rhythm naturally. Without effort, your brain starts copying timing. Many learners try to speak faster. Speed is not the goal. Flow is the goal. Flow comes when the brain trusts itself. Trust comes from exposure. The more your brain hears English, the more it believes it can use it. Thinking in English is not something you force. It is something that happens when translation becomes unnecessary. Translation disappears when the brain has enough direct connections. These connections form slowly through listening and simple speaking. Repetition is often misunderstood. Repetition does not mean repeating one sentence many times in a short period. It means hearing similar ideas expressed in similar ways over time. Podcasts do this naturally. They repeat structures without boredom. The brain also needs silence. Silence allows integration. After listening, the brain organizes information quietly. This is why constant study without rest creates confusion. Balance matters. Listen. Pause. Let the brain process. Natural speaking is not loud, it is smooth. Smoothness comes from internal readiness, not external force. When the brain is trained, speaking feels less like work and more like movement. This is why some people suddenly feel improvement without knowing why. The brain has crossed a familiarity threshold. Enough patterns have been stored. Enough rhythm has been absorbed. Speech becomes easier. The process cannot be rushed, but it can be supported. Daily listening, simple speaking, low pressure. These conditions train the brain gently but deeply. Fluency is not built by trying harder, it is built by training smarter. The brain already knows how to learn language. You only need to give it the right environment. Many English learners do not realize that their biggest speaking problem is not vocabulary or grammar. It is translation. When you translate in your head, you slow down your thinking. You create distance between your idea and your voice. This distance makes speaking feel unnatural and stressful. Translation forces the brain to do extra work. First, the brain creates an idea in the native language. Then it searches for English words. Then it checks grammar. By the time this process finishes, the moment has already passed. Conversation does not wait. This delay creates panic, and panic blocks speech. Natural speaking does not work like this. In natural speaking, the idea and the words appear together. There is no middle step. The brain connects meaning directly to English sounds. This connection feels fast and light. Translation feels heavy because it adds unnecessary steps. Many learners believe translation is normal and unavoidable. At the beginning, this is true. Translation is a bridge. But the problem starts when learners stay on the bridge too long. They become dependent on it. The brain never learns to walk on its own. The brain can only stop translating when it feels familiar with English. Familiarity does not come from studying lists. It comes from hearing English in real situations. When you hear the same ideas again and again in English, the brain stops asking for help from the native language. This is why listening is more important than speaking practice at early stages. Listening builds direct connections. It teaches the brain that English is not foreign. It becomes normal. Podcasts help with this because they repeat ideas in natural ways. When you listen regularly, something interesting happens. You begin to understand without translating. At first, this happens for short phrases, then for full sentences. One day, you notice that your mind stays quiet while listening. This quiet is a sign of progress. Trying to force thinking in English does not work. The brain resists force. It learns through exposure. When English becomes familiar, thinking in English happens naturally. It is a result, not a technique. Simple language is important in this process. If the input is too complex, the brain returns to translation. This is why easy English is powerful. It allows the brain to relax. Relaxation helps connection. Speaking practice should also be simple. Short sentences, clear ideas. When you speak simply, the brain does not panic. You give it time to build confidence. Confidence reduces translation. Repeating useful sentences helps the brain store patterns. These patterns replace translation. When the brain has ready-made phrases, it does not need to search. It reacts. Many learners feel embarrassed to speak simply. They want to sound advanced. But advanced fluency is built on simple foundations. Complexity comes later. Speed comes later. The brain needs safety first. Translation also increases self-judgment. While translating, learners listen to themselves too closely. They monitor every word. This creates tension. Natural speech needs freedom, not control. When you reduce translation, speaking becomes more physical. The mouth moves more easily. The voice sounds smoother. The brain trusts the process. This trust changes everything. Stopping translation is not a decision. It is a transition. It happens slowly, one phrase at a time, one conversation at a time. Patience is part of fluency. Over time, the brain learns that English is not something to convert. It is something to use. When this shift happens, speaking becomes lighter and more natural. Many people believe that speaking practice is the most important part of learning English. They think that if they speak more, fluency will come faster. But speaking without strong listening is like trying to build a house without a base. It may stand for a moment, but it will not last. Listening is the foundation of natural speaking. When you listen, your brain is relaxed. There is no pressure to answer, no fear of mistakes. This relaxed state allows the brain to absorb language deeply. It hears pronunciation, sentence flow, and natural pauses. These details are impossible to learn from books alone. Listening trains the brain silently. While you listen, the brain is collecting data. It is learning how ideas are expressed. It is learning which words come together. Over time, these patterns become familiar. Familiarity creates confidence. Confidence supports speaking. Many learners listen passively. They play English in the background but do not connect with it. Effective listening is gentle attention. You do not need to understand every word. You only need to follow the idea. When the brain understands meaning, it learns structure automatically. Podcasts are powerful because they provide real, natural language. The speakers talk at a natural speed. They repeat ideas in different ways. This repetition is not boring for the brain. It is comforting. The brain likes familiar sounds. Another reason listening is important is pronunciation. When learners do not listen enough, they pronounce words based on spelling or native language habits. This creates confusion when they speak. Listening corrects pronunciation naturally. The brain copies sound before it copies rules. Listening also trains timing. English has a rhythm. Stress and intonation change meaning. When you listen regularly, your brain starts feeling this rhythm. Speaking becomes smoother because the timing feels natural. Many learners stop listening when they do not understand something. This creates frustration. But the brain does not need full understanding to learn. It learns from exposure. Even unclear listening helps build familiarity. Listening every day, even for a short time, changes the brain. 10 minutes daily is enough to create progress. The brain prefers regular input over long, irregular sessions. Consistency matters more than effort. Listening should feel easy. If the content is too difficult, the brain becomes tired and defensive. Simple English is more effective for fluency. When the brain feels safe, it opens. Over time, listening creates an internal voice. This voice becomes your reference when you speak. Instead of translating, you remember how something sounds. This is the beginning of natural speech. Speaking improves when listening becomes a habit. Not because you try harder, but because the brain is prepared. Prepared brains speak calmly. Unprepared brains panic. Fluency grows from the inside out. Listening builds the inside. Speaking shows the result. When listening is strong, speaking becomes a natural outcome, not a struggle. Many English learners believe that mistakes are the enemy of fluency. They think mistakes mean failure. This belief creates fear. Fear tightens the mind and freezes the voice. When fear is present, speaking becomes difficult, even for learners who know what to say. Mistakes are not a problem of language. They are part of learning. Every fluent speaker made thousands of mistakes before becoming comfortable. The difference is not intelligence. The difference is tolerance. Fluent speakers allow themselves to be imperfect while learning. When learners focus too much on correctness, they lose flow. The brain slows down to check every detail. This checking creates hesitation. Hesitation breaks rhythm. Once rhythm is broken, speaking feels unnatural. Natural speech is flexible. It allows correction after speaking. Native speakers adjust while talking. They do not stop to think about grammar first. They move forward and fix later. This movement keeps communication alive. Fear of mistakes often comes from comparison. Learners compare themselves to native speakers or advanced learners. This comparison creates pressure. Pressure turns learning into performance. Performance blocks experimentation. Without experimentation, progress stops. Another source of fear is past experience. Some learners were corrected harshly. Some were laughed at. The brain remembers this pain. It connects speaking with danger. To protect itself, the brain avoids speaking. To reduce fear, the brain needs safe repetition. Speaking alone is powerful. Talking to yourself removes judgment. Recording your voice and listening calmly builds familiarity. Familiarity reduces fear. Simple speaking is also important. Short sentences reduce risk. Clear ideas reduce pressure. When the brain feels capable, confidence grows. Confidence is built through success, not perfection. Mistakes should be seen as signals, not failures. They show where the brain is learning. Each mistake creates a new connection. Avoiding mistakes avoids growth. Podcasts help reduce fear because they provide models. When you hear natural mistakes, pauses, and corrections in real speech, you understand that imperfection is normal. This changes expectations. Fluency improves when you allow yourself to speak before you are ready. Readiness comes after action, not before it. Waiting to feel confident delays progress. Over time, fear becomes quieter. The brain learns that nothing bad happens when you speak. This learning is emotional, not logical. It happens through experience. Speaking without fear does not mean ignoring improvement. It means separating communication from evaluation. Speak first, reflect later. When fear is removed, the voice changes. It becomes smoother. The mind becomes lighter. Speaking starts to feel like expression, not risk. Many learners think that speaking is only a mental skill. They believe that if the brain understands English, the mouth will automatically follow. But speaking is also physical. The mouth, tongue, and lips need training, just like muscles. When these muscles are not trained, speaking feels slow and uncomfortable. This is why many learners feel tired after speaking for a short time. The brain may know the words, but the mouth is not used to forming English sounds. This creates tension. Tension makes pronunciation worse and confidence lower. The solution is not to push harder, but to practice gently and regularly. The brain and the mouth must learn together. If one is trained without the other, fluency stays weak. Listening trains the brain. Speaking trains the mouth. When both happen at the same time, progress becomes natural. Repeating simple sentences is one of the best ways to train both. When you repeat, the brain learns the pattern and the mouth learns the movement. Over time, these movements become automatic. Automatic movement is a key part of fluency. Many learners avoid repetition because they think it is boring or childish. But repetition is how the brain builds habits. Native speakers repeat sounds thousands of times as children. Fluency grows from repetition, not from complexity. Speaking slowly is also important. Speed comes later. When you speak slowly, you give the mouth time to adjust. You reduce mistakes. You feel more control. Control reduces fear, and fear reduction improves fluency. Reading aloud can help, but only if it is done correctly. Reading should sound natural, not robotic. Focus on rhythm, not perfection. The goal is comfort, not accuracy. Shadowing is another powerful technique. Shadowing means listening to a sentence and repeating it immediately. This connects listening and speaking. The brain hears the model. The mouth copies it. Over time, this creates natural timing. Short daily practice is better than long sessions. 5 to 10 minutes of speaking every day trains the mouth consistently. Long sessions create fatigue and frustration. The brain prefers small, repeated effort. Speaking alone removes pressure. When no one is listening, the brain relaxes. Relaxation allows experimentation. Experimentation improves control. Control builds confidence. Many learners wait to speak until they feel fluent. This waiting delays training. Fluency comes from practice, not before it. The mouth must move to learn how to move. Over time, the mouth becomes more flexible. Sounds feel easier. Sentences flow better. The brain stops worrying about how to speak and focuses on what to say. This connection between brain and mouth is built quietly. There is no sudden moment. But one day, speaking feels lighter. That is a sign that training is working. Many learners believe that good English means difficult English. They think long sentences sound smarter. This belief creates pressure. Pressure slows the brain. When the brain feels slow, speaking becomes difficult. Simple English is not weak English. It is strong English. Native speakers use simple structures most of the time. They use short sentences. They use clear ideas. They focus on meaning, not decoration. This is why conversations move smoothly. Fluency lives in clarity, not complexity. Thinking in simple English helps the brain stay calm. Calm brains speak faster. When ideas are clear, words come easily. There is no need to search. The brain reacts naturally. Many learners try to translate complex thoughts into English. This creates confusion. The brain struggles to organize ideas and language at the same time. Simple thinking reduces this load. One idea, one sentence. This structure supports flow. Simple English also reduces fear. Short sentences feel safer. If something goes wrong, it is easy to recover. Recovery builds confidence. Confidence encourages more speaking. Using simple English does not limit growth. It creates a base. From this base, complexity grows naturally. When the brain feels safe with simple language, it becomes open to more detail. Daily life already uses simple language, talking about food, time, work, feelings. These topics train natural speech. Practicing simple expressions prepares the brain for real conversation. Podcasts that use simple English are powerful. They repeat ideas clearly. They show how meaning is built step by step. Listening to this style trains your internal voice. Many learners judge themselves while speaking. They think simple sentences sound childish. This judgment blocks fluency. Communication is not about sounding impressive. It is about being understood. When you allow yourself to speak simply, the brain relaxes. Relaxation improves speed. Speed improves confidence. Confidence improves fluency. Over time, simple English becomes automatic. You stop planning sentences. You speak as ideas appear. This is natural speech. Fluency is not about using big words. It is about using the right words at the right time. Simple English does this best. Fear of mistakes often comes from comparison. Learners compare themselves to native speakers or advanced learners. This comparison creates pressure. Pressure turns learning into performance. Performance blocks experimentation. Without experimentation, progress stops. Another source of fear is past experience. Some learners were corrected harshly. Some were laughed at. The brain remembers this pain. It connects speaking with danger. To protect itself, the brain avoids speaking. To reduce fear, the brain needs safe repetition. Speaking alone is powerful. Talking to yourself removes judgment. Recording your voice and listening calmly builds familiarity. Familiarity reduces fear. Simple speaking is also important. Short sentences reduce risk. Clear ideas reduce pressure. When the brain feels capable, confidence grows. Confidence is built through success, not perfection. Many learners believe that speaking only works when another person is present. They think real practice needs a partner, but this belief limits progress. Speaking alone is one of the most effective ways to build fluency, especially in the early and middle stages of learning. When you speak alone, the brain feels safe. There is no judgment, no interruption, no pressure to respond quickly. This safety allows the brain to explore language freely. Exploration is how learning deepens. Speaking alone helps you hear yourself. You notice your rhythm, your pauses, and your comfort level. This awareness improves control. Control makes speaking smoother. Smooth speaking builds confidence. Talking to yourself may feel strange at first, but the brain does not care who is listening. It only cares about repetition and meaning. When you describe your thoughts, your day, or simple actions in English, the brain practices real communication. Speaking alone also removes fear of mistakes. Without an audience, mistakes feel harmless. This encourages experimentation. Experimentation teaches flexibility. Flexible speakers recover easily and continue talking. Recording your voice is another powerful tool. When you listen back calmly, you hear progress. You hear improvement that you may not feel while speaking. This builds motivation without pressure. Many learners wait to speak until they find a partner. This waiting slows growth. Partners help later. Alone practice builds the base. A strong base makes real conversations easier. Shadow speaking works well when practiced alone. You listen to a short sentence and repeat it immediately. This trains timing and pronunciation together. Over time, the mouth follows sound naturally. Speaking alone also builds consistency. You can practice anytime. No scheduling, no excuses. Consistent practice trains the brain more than occasional long conversations. The brain learns that English is part of daily life, not a performance. This mindset change reduces anxiety. Reduced anxiety improves fluency. Over time, speaking alone stops feeling lonely. It starts feeling normal. This normal feeling is what fluent speakers experience. English becomes a tool, not a test. Many learners search for motivation. They wait to feel inspired before they practice English. When motivation is high, they study. When motivation disappears, they stop. This cycle creates slow progress. Fluency does not grow from motivation, it grows from consistency. The brain changes through repeated exposure. It does not care about intensity, it cares about frequency. Small daily practice shapes the brain more than long, irregular sessions. Consistency creates familiarity. Familiarity reduces effort. When practice becomes daily, the brain stops resisting. English feels less foreign. It becomes part of routine. Routine removes emotional decision-making. You no longer ask whether you should practice. You simply do. Many learners practice only when they have free time. This makes English optional. Optional habits are easy to skip. Consistent habits are protected. Even 5 minutes every day is enough to keep the brain engaged. Consistency also reduces pressure. When practice is daily, no single session feels important. Mistakes feel normal. Progress feels steady. This emotional balance supports learning. Podcasts support consistency naturally. You can listen while walking, resting, or commuting. This removes friction. Less friction means more consistency. The brain likes predictability. When it knows English will appear every day, it prepares. Preparation improves retention. Retention improves fluency. Consistency also builds trust. You begin to trust yourself. Self-trust increases confidence. Confidence improves speaking. Fluency is not built in dramatic moments. It is built quietly. One day follows another. The brain adapts slowly but deeply. Missing one day does not destroy progress. Giving up does. Consistency is flexible, not rigid. Return matters more than perfection. Over time, English becomes familiar. Familiarity becomes comfort. Comfort becomes fluency. Many learners feel comfortable during practice but freeze in real conversations. This happens because real life feels unpredictable. People speak fast. Topics change. There is no pause button. The brain feels pressure, and pressure activates old habits like silence or translation. Natural speaking in real life requires preparation that feels invisible. Real life speaking is not about perfect sentences, it is about responding with meaning. When you focus on meaning, the brain prioritizes communication over accuracy. This shift reduces fear. Fear reduction allows flow. Flow allows natural speech. Using English in small daily moments builds this ability. Short interactions matter. Saying simple phrases at the right time trains real communication. These moments teach the brain that English works outside practice. Preparation for real life comes from listening to real voices. Podcasts expose you to natural speed, interruptions, and informal language. This prepares the brain emotionally. When similar situations appear in real life, the brain recognizes them. Thinking less helps speaking more. Overthinking interrupts flow. When you accept that not every sentence needs to be perfect, your voice moves faster. Speed is not rushed, it is smooth. Trust is essential. Trust your listening. Trust your simple language. Trust your training. Trust reduces control. Reduced control improves fluency. Real life speaking improves through experience, not avoidance. Each interaction trains the brain. Even short exchanges create progress. Progress builds confidence. Confidence encourages more speaking. Mistakes still happen, but they feel lighter. You recover faster. Recovery is a sign of fluency. Over time, English becomes part of your identity. Not something you perform, but something you use. This is natural fluency.